The house is finally quiet. The children have their own lives. The phone rings less often. The routines that once gave structure to every day have slowly disappeared. One evening, a man catches his reflection in a dark window and realizes something unsettling. He's surrounded by memories, yet he feels profoundly alone. It rarely happens all at once. Loneliness after 50 is usually the result of dozens of small decisions, unnoticed changes, and relationships that quietly faded over decades. What makes it even more surprising is that many of these men were once husbands, fathers, respected co-workers, and dependable friends. They didn't expect their later years to feel so isolated. There are 4 silent reasons why some men end up alone after 50. None of them are about bad luck alone. They are rooted in psychology, social expectations, and the invisible habits that shape a lifetime of relationships. The first reason begins much earlier than most people imagine. For many men, adulthood comes with an unspoken assignment: become useful, work hard, provide, solve problems, keep moving. Without realizing it, many invest nearly all of their emotional energy into roles rather than relationships. Career becomes identity. Marriage becomes companionship. Family becomes the entire social circle. Sociologists have long observed that men's friendships often revolve around shared activities instead of emotional disclosure. Colleagues, teammates, and neighbors may spend years together without ever discussing fear, grief, or uncertainty. The connection feels solid until the activity ends. Retirement arrives. A marriage changes or ends. Health limits old hobbies. Suddenly, the environments that maintain those friendships disappear, revealing that proximity was mistaken for intimacy. Psychologist Robert Weiss distinguished between social isolation and emotional isolation. A person may know many people yet still lack the deep relationships that provide security during life's transitions. For many men, that distinction only becomes painfully visible after 50. And here's what most people never notice. Loneliness doesn't always begin when people leave your life. Sometimes it begins when you slowly stop letting anyone truly know you. Imagine 2 men sitting across from each other after decades of friendship. They can remember old jobs, family vacations, and every game they watched together. But when one quietly admits, "I've been struggling," the conversation stalls. Neither knows what comes next. This isn't a personal failure. It's often a cultural inheritance. For generations, many boys learned that competence earned respect, while emotional vulnerability carried risk. They were praised for solving problems, enduring discomfort, and staying composed. Those qualities can build remarkable resilience, but they can also leave a man without the language to express loneliness, disappointment, or fear. Psychologist Ronald Levant described this as normative male alexithymia. Not an inability to feel emotions, but difficulty identifying and expressing them because of social conditioning. The emotions remain. Only the vocabulary is missing. This creates an invisible paradox. The older a man becomes, the more life asks for emotional flexibility. Retirement changes identity. Children become independent. Parents pass away. Friendships shrink. Romantic relationships require deeper communication than they did decades earlier. Yet many men respond to these transitions the same way they always have, by becoming quieter. From the outside, silence can look like strength. Inside, it often becomes distance. Research on long-term well-being consistently shows that emotional connection, not simply being surrounded by people, is one of the strongest predictors of life satisfaction and resilience in later adulthood. Feeling understood matters more than merely feeling occupied. But that's only part of the story. Even men who understand their emotions can find themselves unexpectedly alone because another force begins reshaping their lives after 50, one that few people recognize until it's already happening. A man retires on Friday. On Monday morning, nothing is wrong. The coffee tastes the same. The neighborhood is just as quiet. But something invisible has vanished. The daily rhythm that once connected him to dozens of people without any effort at all. For years, work provided more than a paycheck. It offered routine, purpose, casual conversations, shared challenges, and the reassuring feeling of being needed. When that structure disappears, many discover they never replaced it with something equally meaningful. Researchers who study aging often describe social networks as living systems. If new connections aren't formed, they naturally contract over time. Friends relocate. Some become caregivers for spouses. Others face health challenges. And inevitably, some pass away. The result isn't usually a dramatic loss, it's a gradual narrowing of the world. Anthropologists have long noted that traditional communities gave older men clear roles as mentors, storytellers, and advisors. Their experience remained valuable because younger generations depended on it. In many modern societies, those informal roles have weakened. Experience is still valuable, but fewer spaces exist where it's naturally shared. This creates an unexpected psychological challenge. A man may spend decades mastering how to build a career, support a family, or solve practical problems, yet never learn how to build a new chapter after those responsibilities change. The men who thrive in later life often have one habit in common. They keep becoming beginners. They join groups where no one knows their past. They learn new skills. They volunteer. They mentor. They allow curiosity, not history, to shape their identity. Because purpose is rarely something we preserve. More often, it's something we recreate. And this changes everything. The deepest form of loneliness isn't simply the absence of people. It's the quiet feeling that no one is waiting for what you still have to give. Perhaps the most powerful reason some men remain alone after 50 isn't age itself. It's the story they begin telling themselves about age. After enough disappointments, a divorce, the loss of close friends, retirement, or years of emotional distance, many quietly adopt a belief they never say out loud. This is just how life is now. Psychologists call this a self-fulfilling expectation. When people believe connection is no longer possible, they often stop taking the small risks that make connection possible in the first place. Invitations are declined. Conversations stay on the surface. New faces are viewed with skepticism instead of curiosity. The absence of connection then seems to confirm the belief. A cycle has formed. Ironically, research on adult development suggests that meaningful relationships can emerge at almost any stage of life. What changes with age isn't our capacity to connect. It's our willingness to tolerate the uncertainty that connection requires. Every friendship begins with an awkward conversation. Every trusting relationship starts with someone choosing honesty before certainty. That truth doesn't expire at 50. In many ways, later life offers an unexpected advantage. The pressure to impress fades. Status matters less. Authenticity becomes more valuable than performance. The men who embrace this shift often discover that the relationships they build later in life are fewer, but deeper, calmer, and far more genuine than those formed in youth. Because the opposite of loneliness isn't constant company, it's belonging. And belonging rarely appears by accident. It grows whenever someone decides that despite the disappointments of the past, the next conversation is still worth having. The final piece of this story isn't about why some men end up alone, it's about why many don't, and the quiet choices that make all the difference. By the time a man reaches 50, his life tells two stories. One is written by everything that has happened to him, his successes, losses, responsibilities, and regrets. The other is written by the choices he still makes every day. The four reasons we've explored aren't a sentence, they're patterns. And unlike the past, patterns can change. A conversation can begin. A friendship can be rebuilt. A purpose can be rediscovered. Even after years of silence, the human need for connection never disappears. Perhaps the greatest lesson isn't that some men end up alone. It's that loneliness is rarely caused by age itself. More often, it's the gradual loss of connection to others, to purpose, and sometimes to ourselves. Recognizing that truth is the first step toward changing it. If this perspective gave you something to reflect on, consider subscribing and joining us for more conversations that explore the psychology, relationships, and life lessons that continue shaping us long after youth has passed.